It's a mission to keep as many men on as many guns for as long as possible. We called him Doc. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. And now your host, Aaron Chief Seabird.
Hey, how's everybody doing? I know my voice is a little bit wrecked. This cold has been kicking my butt this week. Hey, I'm really glad. Sitch Radio puts this on. This is Combat Vet Vision. This is where I get to give my opinion, or those that get to come on, they get to give their opinions, their life stories, their life situations, whatever that might be. This is to help educate the public and to maybe help a combat vet that's maybe dealing with something that you can relate to. And I'm really honored and grateful that I have Jay Kopelman on. Him and I go way back to the MIT teams, 2004, 5, and 6. I got my deployments in, but in 2005, I left with 3rd Brigade MIT team, and I came back after being hit with a mortar round. And I met Jay briefly, but he was really impressionable in everything that he was doing. He's a Marine doing some really incredible things. Lieutenant Colonel, retired, and it's great to have him on. He's got 2 books under his belt. He does some incredible things with some medical stuff now. But Jay, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Aaron, thank you. Hey, it's great to be on. Good to see you again, buddy.
See you.
Yeah, you know it, brother.
Yeah, always. You're one of those guys that I've kept in my phone book for a long time, and I got to re-meet up with you. You came to an event at Warrior Built and just hung out, and you brought a buddy with you.
I did.
It was another Marine.
No, so the story on Stanley, he was a Polish immigrant 30 plus years ago. Came here probably with 2 nickels in his pocket and as many words of English. And he and his wife moved to the States. They lived in Kansas, I believe, first, and then ended up in California. Long story short, Stanley got his MBA from USC. He worked in the investment business for a long time. And then the guy's a serial entrepreneur, built a bunch of businesses, became a multimillionaire, and is probably the most patriotic person I'd ever had the pleasure of meeting. The guy absolutely loved America. Unfortunately, he passed about 1.5 years ago from some really bad cancer. But I'm kind of grateful that he's not alive today to see what's going on in our country. It would tear him apart. He loved America. He loved the military. Just couldn't do enough for people. He raised German Shepherds, bred them, and what he wanted to do was, as he got sick and was dying, he wanted to give the dogs away to veterans who needed dogs. He had me out there looking around for people who could use a dog. So that's who I brought. Yeah. And
you have his dog now, right?
I have one of his dogs. He gave me one of his dogs 4.5 years ago. I got Gunny. He's been awesome. He's beautiful, all black German Shepherd. So I know we're not here to talk about that.
No, but you know what? That's cool. It brings up so much things like, to truly love America. Sometimes you have to leave America, and you got to know what you don't have to really appreciate it, or come from somewhere where things aren't very great, and you show up in a country where things can really be great, and you thrive because of that.
Yeah, it's a classic story of immigrant made good here in the United States. Took full advantage of every opportunity he ever had. Worked his ass off, and he was a BAMF. He was a badass motherfucker who would do anything for, not just for America, but for his neighbors. Everybody loved Stanley. Everybody said that he was their best friend because that's how he made people feel. Right.
Yeah. So speaking of dogs and great dog stories, man, you have a way cool story. Talk about an immigrant dog. and bringing it,
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
forefront.
Had Lava for 11 years. The little Iraqi terrorist dog that he was rescued by Marines from 1-3, the 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines, the Lava Dogs out of Hawaii, during a firefight in Fallujah. So when I was in Fallujah with one of the Iraqi Army battalions, the mission was to link them up with 1-3 for mentoring during combat operations. And, linked up with the headquarters element of 1-3 and saw they had this little mutt, right? He was just a little filthy animal, and was able to eventually work it out with the help of a lot of people. I mean, Marines, CBs, reporters. We got the little bastard back to the States, and I kept him until he was a little over 11 when I had to put him down. We talk about troops getting PTSD and suffering, and they don't know how to cope. Well, imagine you're an animal with an IQ of 50 or something, and has no idea how to cope, right? But Lava had bad PTSD. We tried everything for him, meds and different settings, and just nothing worked. I finally came home one day. I was living in a high-rise condo in downtown San Diego, and I came home and he had chewed a wall, the door. He had gone through nails and drywall and all kinds of stuff. And I just realized, okay, this dog is just, he could never settle, right? He just could never calm down at all. I called the vet and he said, it's time. He said, you've probably put up with that dog for 8 years longer than anybody would have or should have. And maybe it was to Lava's detriment. I don't know, but I know he had a better life than he would have had if we'd left him in Iraq. So, he helped me and all the Marines that he was around every day while we had him there in Fallujah. And it probably more than we helped him. So, yeah, sometimes it takes a dog's love.
Yeah, and you wrote a book about it.
I did. Yeah, I wrote in 2006. My first book was published. It's called From Baghdad with Love. And we subsequently, 2 years ago, did a revised edition, added some chapters and some more information, kind of like what happened after Lava. And so that's out, it's out now. And I read the audio book. I wasn't going to let the same actor read the audio book that read the first one because it was horrible. And so then wrote a follow-up book a couple years later on veterans issues, right? Coming home from combat, what we deal with, how we deal with it, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. And it's always just been very important to me. What you're doing has huge importance. Warrior Built's an amazing program. And, I think more people need to know about that. So, you should probably give a shout out there with your website and everything else so people can go see exactly what it is you're doing.
Yeah, it's on the show notes. I do so many things with Warrior Built Foundation, the PTSD Foundation of America. Just really trying to help guys out with a lot of different things, help the combat vets in minor things to major things. And, that's super important. I know it's a big thing for you too. You've done a lot to do that. You got another book out too. You got some other things going on. You've done some incredible stuff. To talk a little bit about why you joined the Marine Corps, what path you took, and
sure.
You retired and doing some good stuff still.
Yeah. So my path is a little unusual. I actually started out in the Navy flight program. So I went through that whole officer and a gentleman thing, and it wasn't far from the movie. Wasn't far from the truth, actually. Other than fighting with your drill instructor, which would never happen. And I did that. I was in the Navy for about 6 years as a pilot. while I was in the squadron learning to fly my fleet aircraft, I got in a fight with another pilot. Broke his nose, gave him 10 stitches, and or caused him to have to get 10 stitches. And so they tried to take my wings. They wanted me gone from that community. I was looking to leave anyway. I just didn't like it. I didn't think they were representative of what war fighters should be. So I said, well, then I want a contract to go to Buds. It was done. They were all too happy to let me go. But then some admiral blocked it. And so I was like, damn, okay, I guess I'm hanging out with these guys. But eventually I was able to do an inter-service transfer to the Marine Corps. So woke up one morning, I was a Navy lieutenant. By that afternoon, I was a Marine captain. So didn't go to Marine Corps OCS, didn't go to TBS, the basic school, which is what all Marine Corps officers go to. To this day, there are Marines who don't think that I was a true Marine officer just because I didn't go to TBS, but I could outshoot them, out PT them, out lead them. And maybe it's jealousy because they don't have a combat action ribbon or some bullshit like that. But that was how I got to the Marine Corps. The reason I joined initially was I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Right. I was 25 years old. I was teaching high school, coaching high school football. And I knew I liked doing things for others. Right. So hence the teaching and the coaching part. And that was only emphasized for me as I got on in my career, that being a Marine isn't just, shooting things and blowing things up. There's a lot more to it. And there is that component of doing for others. And it's something that I've really carried my entire life. Even as a kid in school, if I'd see the kid being picked on, bullied on the playground, that was back in the day when you could go up and punch somebody in the face. You don't get suspended or kicked out of school, right? It's like, I would go defend them. I didn't care how big the bully was or if I was going to get hurt. It was just, I knew that it was the right thing to do. And I've always tried to do that. So I've kind of lived my life on helping others, doing things for people that can't help themselves for one reason or another. And it's really led me down my career path, even after the Marine Corps. Right. So when I got out when I retired in February 2007, I was writing the books and doing a lot of public speaking. But then my first quote unquote job after the Marine Corps was as executive director of a nonprofit called Freedom Is Not Free, where we were providing financial resources to wounded veterans and their families and families of the fallen, right, to help them pay rent, pay electric bills, whatever it was. And while I was there, I started a program called the Little Warrior Surf Camp. So we would bring 100 kids to the beach in La Jolla in the summertime, put them through surf lessons for a week. And at the end of the week, they all got a surfboard to take home. So we had some great partners in that. INT Surfboards donated the boards. I think it was Wahoo's provided the food for the lunches. And that was just a great program. That went on for a few years. Even after I left the organization, they continued to do that. I like to think that was my legacy there, and that we did a lot of good for a lot of kids, because the kids of these service members really suffer a lot and have a tough time too, right? They're different from the kids in school, especially the kids whose parent has been wounded in combat, or worse, they lost their parent in combat. The other kids can't understand it, so they don't really assimilate as well. They don't fit in as well. And so we want to bring them all together and show them that somebody appreciates them, and not just their parents' sacrifice, but their sacrifice. So that's really what's guided me, right, is helping others, doing things for others. And this whole issue of PTSD that is finally getting some attention has been very important to me. I've been diagnosed with it myself. At first, I didn't know what the hell to do, or at least I probably didn't acknowledge it, right? That I had a problem. And that's the worst thing. That is the absolute worst thing that you can do, right? If you find yourself becoming frustrated over the littlest things, or if you find yourself having outbursts, you've got PTSD. If you're looking out your curtains every 10 minutes because you think somebody's out there coming to get you, if you're hyper reactive, hyper alert, and these are all things that Lava, my dog, exhibited as well. You need to get some help. And, medications, these prescription meds, they might work a little bit, but you got to go to get therapy. You got to talk to somebody and get the help and do the work, right? It's fine to go, but if you're not willing to put in the work to make yourself better, it won't help. I mean, my marriage ended as a result of it. I completely fucked that away, getting pissed off at the littlest things and just having angry outbursts to the point where my wife finally said, I can't take it anymore. You have to go. And we had kids. My son was probably 8 at the time. My stepson was 17. And I went, and I regret it. It was 99% my fault, right? But I finally did go for help. I went to therapy every week for 2 years, till my therapist kicked me out. She said she had done everything she could for me, and I had put in the work. But as I look back now and think about things, I really am looking for somebody else closer to where I live now, up in Southeast Idaho. So I want to get back in therapy because it helps. It definitely helps. The other thing I've been doing is microdosing some psilocybin, and that seems to help quite a bit as well. So there are things you can do, but you've got to be willing to put in the work and take the steps. And the first thing is admitting that you have an issue, right? You got to say that there's something going on. So
yeah, so often, you talk about it so well. So often, so many guys just don't want to get that help. They don't want to acknowledge it, but there's so much help out there. Sometimes if you just take a moment to look at it and then say, hey, I need the help. Now I'm going to get it, and I'm going to go through some work to do it. And, you learn the coping skills maybe better. Maybe you learn, when you get fired up. I learned that being fired up sometimes isn't as intense in reality as it is for me to just get this adrenaline rush that I need, and then I could come down from it. But it's that hypervigilance where I want to feel that very spacey kind of control. And
it's crazy, right? I'll play a game with my son when we travel, if we're flying somewhere in an airport, and I'll say, okay, Maddox, who do you recognize over there? Right? Like, I try to make him be aware of his surroundings all the time. And maybe that goes back just to my training, or maybe it has to do with the PTSD. I don't know, but it's one of those things, right, where you're always, your head's on a swivel. You're always looking around. It's hard to relax when you're not at home. I think people wonder why I just enjoy being at home, right? It's because it's safe, and I'm comfortable. I can relax. I've got a 80-pound, protection trained German Shepherd early warning system if I need it. And so, it's a safe space, but we can't live our lives like that, right? We have to get out. We got to be able to get out and meet people and talk to people and socialize, because, we are social creatures. A couple things I found that are really good for me is, of course, it's physical activity. And I think we all need to stay involved in that, right? So surfing is a great one. As most people know, it's really very therapeutic. You become one with the water, right? As you're riding a wave, especially, you just become literally immersed, and it's just a very healing place to be. The other thing is I fight, and it's a good outlet. So I've been training Muay Thai, boxing, jiu-jitsu, and MMA for about 6.5 years now. My coaches are professional fighters. So my MMA coach is a guy named Chris Lieben, who fought in the UFC for 10 years. And those things, it's a great outlet. If you get to spar and it's not, you're not going in there trying to kill somebody, but you can compete in jiu-jitsu at a late stage in your life. I'll be 62 next month. And I just love it. And it's a good release. It's a good way to, if you have any aggression that you need to get out, throwing kicks on a heavy bag or pads that somebody's holding for you is a good way to do it. It just makes you feel better when you're healthy, right? When you're physically fit, you just feel better about yourself, and it helps your mood. You're releasing those endorphins when you're training, and you're getting better, and you find that you're not as angry all the time. So I would recommend that to anybody who's looking for ways to improve and feel better with their PTSD. So, yeah, I don't know what you do, Aaron. How do you handle your PTSD?
You know what? I'm kind of freezing up right here. I apologize. So if I get lost, I'll just let you carry on.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going through talking about how I use my MMA training, Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, boxing, how that's been a big thing for me on being able to get out, any anger I might have. That's a good way to do it, right? And so I was saying that being physically fit helps your mood, right? That you feel better about yourself, and at almost 62, I'll be 62 next month. I'm still sparring boxing and Muay Thai and MMA with professional fighters who are my coaches, right? And yeah, they don't go 100%, of course, right? But my MMA coach, Chris Lieben, the crippler from the UFC, he's kicked and hit me a couple times. He broke the cartilage on 4 ribs, the connecting cartilage from my ribs to my sternum, putting me in a body triangle. Broke 4 of them one day during some jiu-jitsu training. But wow. I love it. Even when I get hurt like that, it lets you know you're alive, and it just feels really good to get out there and roll around in jiu-jitsu or spar with one of these guys and know that this is good. Life is good, and I'm having a great time. So I think it's important that any vets out there, anybody suffering from PTSD, stay physically active. You got to get outdoors and enjoy life. As I was saying, I surf, I ski in the winter, fly fish in the summer, which is probably the most therapeutic thing I've done, because you can be out there fly fishing, and even if you don't catch something, you're just so focused on your fly and what it's doing, you get completely outside yourself, and it's a great thing. And then of course hunting in the fall. So already got a deer this year, hoping to get another one or an elk. So
nice.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
there's a lot of guys doing some important things in their lives that are therapeutic for them in their PTSD journey. And you mentioned it, what it is for you, and it is so much for so many other veterans that talk about it too. But whatever you're doing that's a positive impact to your PTSD, that's keep doing it, and don't just grab a hold of one thing, because if you think that one thing's going to hold you, it might not. You might get tired of it. And like Jay's saying, be diverse in what your activities are, and what your mindset of motion is to move forward in that positive direction. Everything is so important.
Yeah, and what I find with the fighting, is that it almost becomes like a brotherhood again, right? Because you have there's a tight knit group of people in a gym, and I'm lucky I have 3 gyms I train at. So when I'm up here in Idaho, I go over to Jackson Hole and I train at Jackson Hole MMA. When I'm in San Diego, I train at Chris's place. It's called the Training Center, and then I have City Boxing in downtown San Diego. So it's for me it becomes like a brotherhood. I mean, when you're in there sparring with somebody, you actually become very close, right? And it's an intimate thing, right? To be in there kicking and punching somebody or trying to submit them in grappling. So it kind of, for me at least, it's more like the brotherhood I had in the Marine Corps, right? And because it's combatives. It's not the same as going in a combat with somebody, right? And being shot at and returning fire, but because you're doing that for the guy on your left and guy on your right. But fighting is a very intimate experience, and it makes you very close with the people that you're sparring with, the people you're training with. It's like the military in that we help one another learn new techniques, new moves, new skills, and so it's very close knit. And I highly recommend it. If you don't like to punch and kick, at least go try jujitsu. Right? It's a great activity. It's a great sport, and you can do it for a long time. So, yeah.
Oh yeah. And so now you're up in Idaho. What are you doing now?
Yeah.
What's your motivation? What direction are you going? And
Yeah, so I'm currently chief operating officer of a company called Wellfie, which stands for Wellness Selfie. And what we're trying to do is bring healthcare accessibility to underserved populations through schools primarily. So we believe that kids are catalysts for change in families, and families make up communities. So if we can use uh, the schools and getting to the kids as a way to improve the health in their families, but also providing that education so that people know where to get health care, that and what's available to them, and what they should be looking for, and changing diets. That's what we want to do. Ultimately, right now we're focused obviously on COVID in the schools, and so our app is used for screening COVID within a household, and then within the whole school community, but also tracking testing and vaccinations if the family decides that's the route they want to go. And of course in California it's being mandated. So the company is based out of San Diego. Started by a really smart dude who I have a lot of respect and admiration for, a physician from Canada. Steve started this business. It's a startup, and he still works full time as a hospitalist, as a physician at UC San Diego Health. So that's one of the things I'm doing. And then I'm joining another company coming up here pretty soon. I can't talk too much about it because we're still under a non-compete until the end of January. But I'll be the number 2 at this company, and it's not in healthcare. So I'm going to stay on with Wealthy as the COO and help them raise money. So we're in a fundraising stage right now, but also going to be doing this other thing. And then I've been a volunteer firefighter here in my community for about a year now. So like I was saying, it's always about giving back to the community and doing things for others. It's always, to me, that's the most rewarding thing you can do in life, right? It's not about how much money you make or how many toys you have, and that's all fun, right? That's good stuff, right? It's like, it's nice to have money and to have fun toys, but at some point it's like, how many guns or fly rods can I possibly have and use, right? Or how many boats or whatever it's going to be. But it's really about what you do with your life while you're alive, and what you can do for others to improve their lives. So at least that's my take on it. I think you're frozen up again, Aaron. There, buddy? Well, let's not have any dead air. So any vets out there who hear this podcast, if you can hear my voice, if you're suffering from PTSD or any other issues related to combat, please go get the help that you need. I would hate for any veteran to not get the help they need. There's no stigma attached to asking for help. Whether you're a veteran, active duty, retired, if you need help, go get it. That's my message. There's no shame in it. In fact, the shame is if you can't go get the help you need.